Her affair with a 13-year-old boy landed her in prison, but she maintained their secret bond from behind bars. Revelations from Mary Kay Letourneau when Dateline continues.
What began as an irresponsible infatuation was now a sexual relationship between a 34-year-old woman and a boy of 13. And that's a felony any way you cut it. But as incredible as it sounds, the danger of this relationship and the stakes involved were somehow lost on Mary Kay Letourneau, even after the law caught up with her. Again, Josh Mankiewicz.
Even when the teacher's love affair with her former student led to her arrest, she says the seriousness of the situation just didn't register.
I was really thinking there would be a fine, like pay a fine option, because, you know, I had been to some traffic court situations.
But you can't tell me that you thought this was on the order of a traffic violation.
Well, what I really believed is that the law would look into it.
Mary says she thought it would make a difference that Villy was a more than willing partner. She says she was stunned to learn that under statutory rape laws, it is illegal to have sex with a 13-year-old, even if he is willing. Perhaps even more surprising, her explanation for that night between her incarcerations, when she and Villy were found in a car together at 3 a.m. with cash and her passport.
Were you planning on leaving the country then?
No. No.
She says the money was to pay her lawyer, and the passport was just ID. And get this, she claims she didn't mind being caught and sent back behind bars. She says it was her only chance to see her kids.
I'm a mother.
Under the conditions of her release, Mary was prohibited from contact not just with Villy, but with her 5 children, a ban she found intolerable.
You put me in the community in a treatment program without any contact with my children. There's nothing worse.
Mary says she decided she'd prefer to be in prison with at least occasional visits from her kids. She claims she was already making arrangements to pull out of her treatment program and go to prison, so seeing Villy was no risk at all. But at the hearing where her 7-year sentence was reinstated, Mary surely did not look happy about it.
We were away from each other. Our families were shattered.
All contact with her young lover was still forbidden. No visits, no phone calls, no letters. But Mary and Villy admit now they did find a way to communicate.
Mary Kay Letourneau gave birth last night.
After the birth of their second baby, Georgia, Mary was allowed to pump her breast milk and have it sent to the home where their 2 babies lived with Villy's mom and with Villy. Mary enclosed secret messages in the packaging.
We had a pretty sophisticated number code from years before that we understood.
Give me just a couple of them. Like, one meant what?
104 was I love you. And if I wasn't feeling good or if something was going wrong, there was another one. And then I would write names of songs down.
Because the lyrics express how I feel.
Yes.
Songs like Oh Happy Day and Let's Get It On. Let's get it on. Villy says he would play the songs Mary suggested, and he kept a printed card for decoding her ultra-private messages.
What was it like to get the shipments of Mary's breast milk out of the prison and realize in there was a little secret message for you?
It just made me feel really, really good, really happy about it.
Villy spent months daydreaming about her getting out, but as time passed, he admits he dated other girls his own age. By 2002, with Mary locked away for 5 years, Villy very publicly proclaimed in that civil trial that his love affair with Mary Letourneau was over.
Personally, I just lost feelings for her.
You sat in a courtroom under oath and said that you had lost your feelings for her and that relationship wrecked your life.
That under oath thing in courtroom, I don't really believe in all that stuff. I have a really strong belief in a God that really sees a lot of good in people's hearts.
He says his mom and her lawyers convinced him that disavowing his love for Mary would pay off.
They gave me the pressure as if I didn't do it, how was I going to have the funds to raise my kids?
Mary heard about it all in prison from news accounts.
Was it painful to hear him say that he didn't love you anymore?
I knew that no one could ever say anything to him to take away what we had. I thought they really convinced him, to get that money, to say whatever he has to say.
Mary Kay Letourneau has been released.
2 years later, when Mary was released and this star-crossed couple finally reunited, legally this time, they both say their love was as strong as the night they parted.
I got to hold her, I got to put my cheek against hers and, got to hold her hand and just look at her and just to even smell her breath. It smelled good that day.
7 years apart. How did he change?
Not very much. I liked, what I really liked is that we could go out to dinner and he could order a glass of wine.
When we come back, a headline-making couple sounding like ordinary people.
Who takes out the trash?
I do.
Who makes the decisions?
Both of us.
Who's more romantic?
I am.
Yeah,
But she
I
doesn't.
like that.
What's your favorite scene in that video?
My conversation with Mary and Vili Fualaau took place just a few days after their first anniversary, and the subject of their wedding still brings a glow.
Oh, happy day.
Everything that happened in that sacred spot where we were doing our vows just was kind of like slow motion, but magical.
Best part of it I liked was when he announced us husband and wife.
The 43-year-old bride and her 21-year-old groom received a little extra joy on their special day, reportedly as much as $1 million worth, by selling the rights to their wedding video. It's paid their bills all year, but also led to some public skepticism about the state of this union.
You know there are people out there who, when they saw you getting married, and in fact, when they see this interview, they're going to say, this is not for real. This can't be for real.
I don't think anyone would listen to this and really listen to us and then say that.
You know that for a lot of people, this is just so weird that they can't understand it. I mean, that can't come as a surprise to either one of you.
If they say that it's not right for us to be together, I don't care. I'm just going to live my life with her, with Mary.
And for the past year, that's just what he's been doing. In the rented waterfront home he and Mary share with their girls in a Seattle suburb. As they talk about their day-to-day life, they sometimes gaze at each other like teenagers.
Who gets up earlier?
I do.
Who takes longer getting ready to go out?
She does.
She pointed at you.
No, she does.
Who's a better cook?
I am.
No. He likes to cook, and I let him.
What's his best dish?
He makes a pretty good adobo chicken.
Who makes the decisions?
Both of us.
Who's more romantic?
I am.
Yeah,
But she
I
doesn't.
like that.
Romance is like a lot of show. If you want to show off, you want to make her say, oh, wow, But she kind of says, don't do that, don't do this.
I just don't like real
And
showy.
then when I don't do it, she complains.
You understand, you're talking like every husband throughout
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
Who hogs the covers?
We got big covers. I think we're okay in that.
We're just one body.
But the pillows,
The pillows.
Oh, yeah.
she likes to hog all the good ones.
No, you always get them first.
And
I just want to share.
then you ruin my sleep by taking them away from me.
That's because you've taken all of them.
Mary and Villy insist they're perfectly comfortable with their 21-and-a-half-year age difference. Still, there are a few occasions when Mary seems to act more like his mom than his wife, like when Villy cranks up the music of rapper Little John.
She'll listen to it and she says, you know, she's like, that's really evil music. Turn it off. Turn it off. Don't want to hear it. That's evil energy coming from that.
I do think it's bad energy music. It's like you hear it, it's sort of just inside of you.
But a year after their wedding, and a decade after the first sparks ignited in room 39 of Shorewood Elementary, Mary says the passion is still very much alive.
Sometimes I just feel like I just want to, like I can't believe it, and I just want to get home and run to him and just, I actually get that feeling a lot. I'm pretty sentimental.
Villy is pretty sentimental too, and not afraid to show it.
You got a tattoo you can show me?
Sure does.
Yeah, I do. Okay. It's big. Has her name right here. It's a long story. It's pretty much my story starting off when she went away from prison up to our marriage.
That story won't be complete, Villy says, until he and Mary and their daughters are a full legal family. For most of their lives, these two little girls had a teenager for a father and a prison inmate for a mother. But today, their parents say 9-year-old Audrey and 7-year-old Georgia are happy, active kids with two very involved parents who are eager and able to care for them full-time.
Audrey's bubbly, a lot of energy, very, very bright. She's athletic. She's got a really fun, competitive side to her.
Georgia's more soft-spoken. I think she has a lot of dreams. You notice things about your children that surprises you. I mean, I don't know what you would call it. It's a good feeling.
When I spoke with Villy and Mary last week, they were still on a high from seeing Georgia nail a dance performance the night before.
I feel proud. I feel very proud.
Oh my gosh, and just to see her up there with the big, she was so happy that, you know, it just took over me. I just thought, wow.
Mary says it felt pretty good after so many years of missing recitals, sports events, and parent-teacher conferences. She says these days the kids still bring up the subject of her prison term from time to time.
They weren't entirely clear on really where I was, even though every 2 weeks they were there for the Mother-Child Day. They have a very natural setup particularly for younger children at the prison. So my girls, they called it, remember when we saw you at the painting room, Mommy? Remember when we stayed with you there?
If that sounds a little like a family in denial, Mary says it isn't. She says the girls understand their mom was sent away because at one time, being with their dad was against the rules.
I remind them about that every time they break a rule and have to have a timeout. So, remember? You know, Mommy broke a rule. Mommy had to do a timeout. You only have to do 3 minutes, but you be careful. You have to follow rules.
During Mary's stay behind bars, the girls were placed in the temporary custody of Villy's mother, Suna. Villy says he didn't like being seen as merely a sort of big brother to his own kids.
I always had my mother or my auntie taking over my job, but you know, they meant well. But you know, it's like they didn't understand my feelings of wanting that type of privacy as a father with my children.
And now you've got that.
I've got that now.
And the point is, he was ready. It was a very serious goal to be a father in every aspect.
Some questions may still remain about Villy's maturity. In April, he was convicted of driving under the influence. He'll be sentenced later this month. There may be questions, too, about Mary's history of very poor judgment. But now, the state of Washington, which once viewed their relationship as a crime, is apparently sanctioning it. Mary and Villy say they expect to get permanent custody of their girls this summer under a court-supervised transition plan. And what about Mary's other children, 4 of them from her marriage to Steve Letourneau? Remember, they moved to Alaska with their dad shortly after Mary went to jail. Well, you might be surprised to hear that these days they're spending a lot of time right here in Seattle with their mom and their new stepfather, who's not a lot older than they are. Your oldest is how old?
21.
21.
My son, yeah.
Almost your age.
A couple years, yeah.
Is that weird at all?
If I put myself in his shoes, I mean, if my mom was with somebody that was a couple of years older than me or younger than me, you know, I'd pretty much just, that's my mom's business, you know. If she loves him, I love him, you know.
And that's how Mary's kids have reacted.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, Mary's oldest son is currently living with the couple. Her 18-year-old daughter goes to art school in Seattle and often spends weekends with them. The younger ones, now in their early teens, visit too. That's another daughter there. None of Mary's kids from her first marriage want their faces shown on television. Villy admits he's not comfortable disciplining Mary's older kids, but overall, Mary and Villy say their unconventional family gets along surprisingly well.
It's like, oh, that was just such a joy to watch. It's my older children with our young children, and just the way they just love each other.
You got this blended family going here. I would have to say that most people would have thought the odds were against that going into this.
My older children, they are natural peacemakers, and there's such compassion in them.
And will Mary and Villy be having more children together? For the first time, there's no law against it.
When we come back, the million-dollar question.
You guys gonna have another baby?
For Mary Falau, that would make 7.